All right, what's going on, everybody? And happy Friday. Let's go over the Truck Series final picks at Charlotte Motor Speedway tonight. Practice and qualifying just wrapped up, so we finally know where all the drivers are starting. We kind of have a good understanding of where we want to go with tonight's slate. So, looking at the race preview and initial thoughts, it's 134 laps. It is a 1.5 mile intermediate track. It's a pretty stacked field with some Cup Series drivers stepping down and taking place in the truck race tonight, which should make for an interesting slate as far as who the potential lap leader is going to be. And looking at the field after qualifying and mess around with lineups a little bit, I think it's really going to come down to, as it always does, trying to find that right balance between place differential plays and lap leaders in your line. Um, as far as the next milestone goes, we're currently at 459 subs. Our next milestone is to get up to 500. So hopefully we can hit that mark by the end of this weekend. This is one of the best weekends of motorsports with just everything going on. So real quickly, let's jump into the driver by driver breakdown, looking at the expensive range from Kyle Busch down to Chandler Smith. I think you can make an argument for a bunch of different drivers in this range for different reasons. Kind of the elephant in the room is Kyle Busch racing in this race and the price tag at 14.4 that he carries. So if you are plugging in Kyle Busch, it takes a significant chunk out of your salary. It makes it very difficult then to potentially get some other lap leaders in your line. We also haven't really necessarily seen the KBM trucks dominate and take over like we did last year. Now he does start third, so you could make the argument that it's only going to take him a lap or two before he gets out front to the early lead and maybe just maintains his track position for the rest of the race. And if that's the case, then you're going to want Kyle Busch in your line and then pairing him with other potential place differential plays or drivers who can finish well. But with that price tag and where he starts, and especially with the stack field, I feel more confident rostering some other drivers. I don't think you should eliminate him from your player pool, but it's not so much an automatic slam dunk play like it was last year. Then you drop down to John Hunter Nemechek, also in a KBM truck. A little bit of a different story for him. He starts 15th, so he doesn't necessarily have a chance of being an early lap leader. So if you're playing John Hunter Nemechek, you want to make sure that you're pairing him with a driver who does start further towards the front of the field. That way, if you're playing that narrative out in your head that, hey, the early lap leader that who isn't John Hunter is going to lead early, then maybe John Hunter takes over in stage 2 or potentially stage 3. So I like John Hunter just because of the discount that you get off Kyle Busch. I think both of them have a similar upside, but you get a nice discount and you also get some place differential points in there. As far as who that early lap leader potentially might be, I feel pretty confident that it's going to be Zane Smith starting on the front row. He starts second. He's been the best driver all year long in the Truck Series. He has the most wins, the most dominant trucks. He was really fast in practice, really fast on his lap averages as well. So I like him to get the early jump over Ty Majeski, and then trying to pair him with some of those place differential plays that we talked about. Some more GPP options would be Ross Chastain and Chandler Smith. I think both of them are going to come in under owned compared to Zane Smith, John Hunter, and Kyle Busch. So maybe it's a good way to potentially get some leverage in your line. It's just hard to see, make the argument that they're going to pass, either Kyle or Zane and be that lap leader. But again, I don't think they're going to come in super high owned. So if you're looking for some potential low owned plays that might potentially help you win a tournament, I don't mind going to either Ross Chastain or Chandler Smith there. Drop down to the 9K range. This is kind of when you're going to start to pair some of these drivers with potentially the 10K drivers. That way you can afford everybody. Ben Rhodes didn't really love his truck in practice. I didn't really qualify that well either. But we know this team's going to be able to work on it throughout the night, and he should be running in the top 8, most likely when the night is done. Carson Hocevar is a sneaky potential lap leader. He got a little bit loose in his qualifying run, so he starts 5th. But if he wouldn't have gotten loose, there's a good chance he could be potentially starting on the front row, or maybe a handful of spots higher. It's pretty cheap. He's easy to fit into lines. I don't think he's going to carry a ton of ownership. Usually, people are afraid to play him starting 5th, but I like the upside there. I think he can pick up fast laps. I also like Ryan Preece a lot too. Preece is another you could argue Cup Series driver who's stepping down into the Truck Series. Starts 8th, gives you a little bit of place differential. I think he should run around 8th for most of the day. But he's a driver who I could see taking advantage of a late race restart and potentially finishing top 5. Stuart Friesen, I just don't think I'm going to get to today. He has shown pretty good speed this year, but looking at his practice and qualifying times, he qualified kind of right around where he was practicing. So I think he's going to get stuck, especially when you start looking at the stacked field of the drivers ahead of him. It's just hard for me to see him working out. Same argument for Eckes and Enfinger, really not going there today. Like Matt Crafton is a place differential play starting 18th. I think he can easily finish inside the top 10. He's pretty cheap, easy to fit into lines. Ty Majeski is interesting. If you're fading Zane Smith or potentially Kyle Busch and you're looking for a really cheap lap leader, I think he is interesting. I just think that truck is extremely trimmed out. And the second that he gets in some dirty air, I feel like he's going to drop further back, but it's really cheap. So maybe if you're building multiple lines, maybe throw in a lineup or two of Majeski in there, just in case he happens to go out there and lead all of stage 1. Really like Matty D. He's really cheap, had really great speed in practice and qualifying. Love his finishing potential upside starting 10th, really easy to fit in the lines. Same with Tyler Ankrum and Derek Kraus. They're both kind of more place differential plays, but really easy to fit with some of those more expensive 10K drivers. Don't want anything to do with Tanner Gray. He starts just way too high up, way too much of a risky play. Colby Howard's an interesting pivot off of the potential chalk that Austin Wayne Self and Tyler Ankrum and most likely Derek Kraus are going to carry. I don't think people have the trust in Colby Howard yet, but he's in the same equipment as Derek Kraus. So, if you like Kraus, you should like Howard, who only starts 4 spots, further behind him and who is cheaper. Getting down to the 6K range, really, I think Haley Deegan is the free square. She wasn't able to take a qualifying run with a mechanical problem with that truck. We know this team's good enough to get that mechanical problem fixed before the start of the race. So she starts DFL, can't lose you any points, extremely cheap, really easy to fit in the line. So I think she is most likely the free square. I would just kind of go 100% on ownership if you are playing her and just take the free points and then try to differentiate your lines elsewhere. If you are trying to pivot off of Haley Deegan, or if you're looking for a potential driver who also starts deeper in the field, I think you could make an argument for Timmy Hill or Lawless Allen. I prefer Lawless Allen just because he starts a few spots further back than Timmy. He's also in the Nice Motorsports equipment, which is the same equipment that Ross Chastain and Carson Hocevar are in. Obviously, Lawless is, probably 3rd or 4th in line when it comes to, what quality of equipment truck wise that he's getting, but nonetheless, it's still coming out of the Nice Motorsports camp. So getting him for $6,100 seems like a steal. And then I don't know if I'm really going to get down to the 5K or the 4K range. I don't necessarily think you have to, unless potentially you are playing Kyle Busch. And then if you are, it's really only 2 drivers who I want to go to down here. That would be Dean Thomas and Chris Wright. And again, it's the same argument, just looking at their equipment, looking at where they start, and looking at their finishing potential. They're both in the Nice Motorsports equipment. And when you start looking at all these other drivers who start around them, it's hard to feel confident, plugging those drivers into your line. So that's basically going to do it for the Truck Series picks. I think Xfinity, once we get the final starting grid, we'll get a video posted for that. Same with the Cup Series. If you guys want access to this, it's over on Twitter. It's at FastCarsFM. And then just thanks again for all the support. We're slowly growing, trying to get up to that 1,000 subscriber milestone. The next goal that we have is getting up to 500. So if you want to support us in any way, just hitting that subscribe button means a lot to us. But best of luck this slate, and we will catch you guys on the next one.